Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Interlinked, the official Neo Tokyo podcast powered by Shrapnel.
Brace yourself for impact, crypto gamers, because I am reporting from the Shadow Zone. STX1 just wrapped up. It was an absolute banger. I know I was out there grinding for my Sigma, trying to get my missions complete. Only problem is, I suck. So I got most of my Sigma, full confession, off of dead bodies and extracted my ass out of there. But I'm going to get a second bite at the apple in STX2 dropping right around the corner. And it's going to include new map updates, suppressors, which I'm excited about because I want to live my inner James Bond fantasy. And I will be there grinding for some more Sigma. So if you haven't gotten a chance to get your extraction pack, now might be the time so you too can drop in. Huge shout out to our sponsor, Playa3ull Games. They are inspired by gamers and funded by their community. They have a epic game on the Epic Games Store, a third-person shooter called Nexus. Hop on in there and check that out. They're also currently selling nodes, so if you're interested, check that out at their website, playable.games. That is a 3 instead of a B on Playable. Now strap in for the rest of this episode of Interlinked.
Today, we have the main man, the one and only, the living legend, Mr. Hustlepedia. How you doing, man?
I'm good. Pleasure to be back. As always, hope y'all are having a good day and stoked to chat.
Yeah, dude, you are our first repeat guest on Interlinked. It's a big day for the pod here. I'm really excited to have you here. Of course, alongside the legendary co-hosts, Mr. Nick, Mr. Jared. How you guys doing today?
Awesome. Thanks for having us. Glad you're here.
Yeah, doing
Awesome.
great. Ready to talk about some crypto gaming.
Let's do it. All right. So since we last spoke, Hustle, you have been building something incredible. And that something incredible is called Nexus. And we briefly touched on it last time, but not enough. So maybe you can give us the deep dive on what is Nexus? How did it come to be? And yeah, let's start there.
Yeah, for sure. So we've been building this out over the last 12 to conceptually speaking, 18 months, where we were putting together the framework on this thing. And to be honest, like on the YouTube shows, I have a hard time sourcing info from 10 different places. It's really a headache to jump back and forth, DApp Radar, DeFi Llama for on-chain, and then tracking my portfolio on different websites. And most of them are either inaccurate or I have to do individually tracking each wallet. So I can't see a full lens of my portfolio without it either being wrong or having to hop tab to tab. And it just got overwhelming for me, even as a content creator. So I could understand how overwhelming it would be for like a new incumbent to the space. Like, oh, this game, Imposters, looks really cool. How do I find info? There's 7 NFT collections for this. Which one do I buy, right? So trying to really simplify that information and put together the all-in-one app where you can track your investments, do all your research, keep all of your consolidated information on one place, and then eventually, hopefully, give people one of the lowest barrier to entry investment tools out there with different mechanisms like a Launchpad, airdrop farming, instantaneous trading, all that good stuff, and really make it. There's a saying, Ben, you've visited here. The building that I live in, they say, is the building you never have to leave. And that's conceptually what we want to build is the software for crypto that you really don't need to leave to be able to take care of anything that you need to in the space. So I'd say that's a broad level overview, why we started building it and exactly what you can expect inside the software.
And so going from content creator, having created a couple of different collections, and now moving into more of the software development world, what were some of the things that you kind of had to figure out, or that you like the learnings that you had, the new things that you were discovering? What was that kind of difference there from those things to now building software?
For sure. It's a completely different game. And building software, I mean, it's been one of the most rewarding but challenging things that I think I've ever gone through. Like, you think you know what someone wants until you build it and someone's like, I wouldn't really use that. And you like pitch it to people and they're like, oh, and then, you did all this development work on the back end for something that, like, say I deem valuable or one of our team members deems valuable. And we get to the finish line on that side of the product. And it's like, yeah, there's no appetite for that. Scratch it. And it's just like, okay, that's interesting, right? What I want might not be what, Jared or Nick or yourself want, right? So it's just one of those things that It's a challenge for sure. And that feedback comes at you heavy and you just got to adjust on the fly. Whereas, with the content stuff, people want one thing. They want tokens and they want what's the move in the market. It doesn't really change, right? They just want the alpha, as we would term it in the space. So yeah, you got to be on your toes. You got to be adaptive. And obviously, like with my first collection, TTOO, it's more of a community investment style alpha group, same kind of thing, right? But the expectations, the delivery, for a real product like a software, it's been a completely different game. But I have to say, I've learned more about business over the last 12 months than I had in my previous 27 years. I would say that.
100%. And when you were thinking about like the core features or like the core selling point, or as I've heard you say, the key money making features that are just that are going to get people in the door and you want them to know you for. How did you determine which ones were the keys to go after? Because we could do anything, but we can't do everything given time constraints and resource allocation. So, you kind of mentioned like as a creator, you wanted to build tools that were useful for you, but how did you really narrow that down into exactly like, okay, these are the things?
Yeah, for sure. First and foremost, when you look across the space, I think there's only a couple places you can get data on crypto games in general. So a go-to source for crypto gaming, and just to be able to jump into the ecosystem, easily play these games, leave reviews, have your favorites. It's this where we live in the crypto gaming space. There's no Xbox Live. There's no Blizzard where you have friends, you have this social network. And I'm not going to add Ben as a friend online as 0x7, like his wallet address, right? We need identities, we need gamer tags, those types of things. So first and foremost, bringing the social aspect to crypto and gaming was huge, and just making it super accessible for someone from the outside to understand how to play a game, which assets factor into which parts of the ecosystem, but also on top of that, like the tracking of your investments, seeing your P&L every day, where you entered versus where it is, tracking your wallets across EVM, Ronin, across, your Bitcoin wallets, your ordinals, your Solana NFTs and tokens. We don't have those tools that do everything as well. So you can literally manage your portfolio in something like this just on Nexus by itself. But more importantly, people have to deem something valuable enough to pay a subscription or buy an NFT that it's going to make them money. So first and foremost, you have to be able to deliver, as we call them in-house, money-making features. And there's a few things in the market as a content creator that I see that people talk about that they would love access to. Number one is a Launchpad. They hate it when people come on and they're like, oh, this was such a big win. And then you'll see the comments and they're like, yeah, for the influencers that got in early. It's like, okay, well, they're not wrong. Unfortunately, the game is swayed. It's a jaded game that way, right? Influencers and big names in the space, they get the access first. And unfortunately, that's just how it is. So with the Launchpad product, being able to deliver these projects to our users either that pay a subscription or have an NFT. By the way, that subscription thing is alpha. We haven't announced that yet, but there's going to be a little bit of a taste of that for our public users, which will be super nice. It'll probably be one of the lowest barrier to entry Launchpad that you could find in crypto. But then automated airdrop farming. People hate bridging and I got to do this. It just seems like a daunting task. So when you have automated airdrop farming, you just set your liquidity aside and people can farm that for you on the software. We deem that very valuable because people want early investments. They don't want to spend the time it takes to bridge and do all these activities for airdrops. And then when the time comes, they missed one criteria that they didn't know about. And it's like you wasted all that time. Whereas put it in the hands of experts and they can do it for you. It just makes it a lot easier. And then instantaneous trading for existing and new pairs. The lowest fees on the market. We're working with Photon on this actually, and Photon's blown up over the last 6 months with the meme coin narrative, but not just with meme coins. You can trade any given tokens across the Ethereum and the Solana blockchain. one of the fastest, throughputs, transaction speeds, et cetera. You're going to be able to do that on Nexus at a lower fee than any of the decentralized exchanges that are out there. So those are the kind of advantages that we don't want to take from the investor. We want to give them the tools that are going to feed into their investments by giving less fees and then lower barrier entry to different things that are, normally considered hard to access.
Yeah, and I'd love to zoom in a bit on the Launchpad side. That's been a super, super strong sort of differentiator of this cycle where there's so many new Launchpads that are coming to the general market. So I'd love to get your opinion on, what's the big differentiators between these Launchpads? What really makes a Launchpad, valuable from the user standpoint, particularly maybe focusing on allocation size? Is that something that I've been noticing that Launchpads have been struggling with, is like, how do you reward the people who are the big investors in your product early on with the new joiners who might not be able to get a meaningful size of the allocation?
For sure. So when it comes to Launchpads, I think it's getting saturated right now. It's a pretty saturated side of the market now. There's a bunch of community VCs out there. There's individual Launchpads that pop up, even projects, and I love these projects, but Vulcan Forge has a Launchpad now. Citus has a launch. Like, individual projects are now just like, we see this mechanism where we have connections and our community has a lot of liquidity. We can put out these launches and probably, benefit the community, and it benefits the project, right? But a couple things I look at, like, the project has to be powered by either a face or a name that has pull. Seedify has pull. Why? Previous success. When you look at their competitors, once again, I like these products. It's not like a game starter. There's the GameFi Launchpad. There's a couple different ones, like true gaming Launchpads, but they don't have the rep that Seedify does, because last cycle, Seedify pumped the 700Xs out of their Launchpad, right? So they have proof of concept. When you look at the community VCs, stuff like Neo Tokyo, proof of concept's there. You're getting in on deals that, let's just say SitCap can't get something over the line. Ping Elio, ping Becker. Hey, how about you pop into the chat and let's get this deal for the community, because I know you're bullish on it. They send one message over and they bend the knee because Elio and Becker's voice in the space is so massive. I think that's where we found a strong suit here with Nexus, because when you have influence in the market in any sort of way, YouTube, be able to promote the product at the same time, or just give exposure to my audience, we've found that to be a pretty strong selling point. Whereas a lot of these others, like, not even going to call them smaller Launchpads, we're not a large Launchpad at this point in time. I feel like they lack that selling point of why should we fundraise with you? But when they fundraise with Seedify, when they fundraise with Neo Tokyo, when they fundraise with Nexus, just for some examples, you're getting something else with it. There's like an influence, there's a pull to those products. And then on the allocation side, I mean, Ben can attest, it's tough, People on the low end that hold one NFT aren't getting as much pull into the rounds as 20 NFTs. But an interesting concept, we have the guaranteed rounds for 24 hours. So every NFT has a guaranteed allocation for 24 hours. Anything unsold for the next 24 hours is first come, first serve to anyone. And it's interesting because our big holders will go in for the full size of their allocation, few $1,000s. But then whenever the first come, first serve comes around, the people who only got $100 because they hold one NFT, they're the ones actually scooping up 40% of the Launchpad rounds. So we've kind of found this middle ground where the first come, first serve is usually there's enough allocation to go around where our small holders still feel like they're getting their piece of the pie, while our big holders in the first 24 hours are already getting their slice to the size that they want. So I think that's where we found a little bit of a good middle ground, but obviously sometimes the smaller holders or the bigger holders inevitably have something to say, but that's just part of running a community and running a product.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that idea of having the guaranteed slice right off the bat, because that's the number one sort of disgruntled thing you get during the Launchpad is, hey, I bought X, Y, and Z. I didn't even get a chance to get a little taste. When you at least get the opportunity to get a taste, it's really hard to bitch as hard on the back end that you didn't get a bigger taste. Now, people are still going to do it, of course, but
Of course.
it's a good way to head that off at the knees. Between you and Ben, I know that you guys get your eyes on so many deals that are flowing through these launch pads. So I'd love to get a little bit of an insight from both of y'all on where are we in the launch pad raising cycle? Because I think this cycle doesn't really get talked about as much, and it has a major influence on the general crypto gaming cycle. So I'd love to get a little bit of an insight on what y'all are seeing as far as a deal flow and how that's been evolving over sort of the lifetime of the cycle.
Yep, for sure. It's another thing, a contesting topic inside our community with the team, because as the cycle's going on, we don't want to take on 18, 24 month vesting. It's getting to that point where, okay, in 24 months, sure, the institutions are here and everything, but the stock market has bear markets. Bear markets are inevitable. And whether the market is probably going to be propped up for the elections and all that good stuff, most of these tokens that we're seeing now, at first in the cycle, they were great deals. 20% TGE unlocks, 1 month cliff, 12-month vests. So like if the TGE already happened this year, they'll have their tokens by early 2025, where the 4-year cycle puts us somewhere next year would theoretically be the top of the market. But we don't really know now that the institutions are here and they're calling it the super cycle. I think no one knows what this is going to entail over the next year and a half. But for us, we are looking for bigger TGE unlocks so our investors are protected and they feel like they can get their capital back off the rip. We want lower cliffs, because if you can't get your hands on your money for 6 months after TGE, a lot can happen in that 6-month period of time, whether it's within the market or within that project sentiment. And then thirdly, we don't really, I think 18 is the most we would take right now, but they would have to launch by June. So that way every token is vested by the end of next year. So it's getting closer to the point where we just want public rounds, like, 25% TGE, 6-month vest, like that type of a round that other traditional launch pads like Seedify get, for example. But, I think at some points of the cycle, private and seed rounds are better. But at some points in the cycle, the public rounds are better, even at a slightly higher valuation. I think we're nearing that time for launches, just given the timeline of the cycle.
And are you noticing that the leverage is starting to shift? You mentioned sort of the saturation of launch pads. I'd imagine early in the cycle, when companies were coming out of the bear, things were a little bit more uncertain, the launch pads really had a lot more leverage because they're like, hey, we're the ones with the money. Now you got to imagine, as there are more launch pads, more capital being deployed in the space, are you seeing that leverage shifting more to the games where they're starting to dig their heels in on certain things?
Yeah, I think more so they're getting stingier on, like I said, at the beginning of this little rally in the market, when tokens started going to market, finally, everyone, the whole bear, we're waiting until the bull market to launch our token. It's like, okay, once it kickstarted, a lot of projects brought it to market with better terms. Like I said, bigger TGE unlocks, less vesting. It was more favorable. I think as it's going on, it's not necessarily harder to get the rounds on your product or on your launch pad. I think it's just harder to get favorable terms because teams are just stingy now. Like I said, we see deals that are great, but there's one, I won't name names, 6-month vest, 24 or 6-month cliff, 24-month vesting with like a 5% TGE. So it has to 20x off the rip to get your initial back. And then you still wait 6 months to get a single token. And then it vests for 24 months. If that launched today, that puts us at the end of 2026 that you're getting all your tokens back. Who knows where we're at that point in time, right? So I think the terms are just getting worse because teams feel like they have the leverage, right? And they do, it's their project. But yeah, I think that's what we're seeing the shift in, is stingier terms.
And just to weigh in on that too, and just for context for the audience, I am also a co-founder of Nexus, so very biased. Absolutely, want to be very transparent there. And also, I helped to build the Neo Tokyo Syndicate, so I'm seeing a lot of what's going on in the in this realm here. So like, for a little bit of alpha for those who are maybe a bit newer to this particular space. Earlier on in a round, like your pre-seed, your seed You're typically going to have lower prices on your tokens, but the vesting is going to be a little bit more in the favor of the project, meaning they're going to want to lock you up for longer. So you have smaller percentage of tokens that you get at TGE, you have longer cliffs, and you have longer vesting schedules. And you're paying for that because you're getting a lower token price. Now, as you proceed further into the different rounds, so you have your pre-seed, you have your seed, you have your private rounds, you have your strategic rounds, you have your KOL rounds, you have your public rounds, and people call them whatever they want. They may say VIP round, they may say this round, that round. But as you get closer to the end of the raise, if pre-seed is the first and public is the full launch, right, that you typically go to Launchpads for, the further on you get in that let's say raise life cycle, the more expensive per token, but the more favorable terms, which is what Hustle was talking about. And so you might have a much larger chunk that you get at TGE, and then you have shorter vesting schedule, shorter cliffs, and so you're seeing that kind of dynamic play out. Right. So earlier on, lower token price, a little bit less favorable vesting. Later on in the fundraising, later rounds are going to be more expensive, and sometimes it could be 2 or 3x more expensive than seed, but you get more tokens faster. So you kind of have to weigh the risks of like, do I want to get my tokens more quickly, or do I want to get a better price? You kind of have to figure that out for yourself. But so what we're seeing over time is earlier on, people were a lot more willing to get into these earlier stage rounds. Like all people wanted was pre-seed seed when it was in the midst of the bear market, because you just don't know when the bull market's coming. So you're willing to wait that out because you want these unlocks to be coming. You want tokens to hit your wallet in the middle of the bull run so that you can sell and make a lot of money because the prices are inflated, right? If we think about market cycles, as the cycle matures, as people get more greedy, as prices get higher, you're incentivized to, like, you should be incentivized to sell and take profits off of the table. Like that's when you're incentivized to do that. But we also see that teams are willing to give worse and worse terms over time. So the closer to the bull you get, the more aggressively they're going to be asking for terms. So they're going to say, we want to charge higher prices for the token, and we want to give you longer vesting cycles. So you just kind of have to be wary of that. And I think a very interesting top signal to possibly consider, or things to notice as we progress into the bull, are unreasonable prices on these pre-TGE rounds. Because when people get the most greedy and prices are the most euphoric, that's when you should be considering, hey, we might be in a bit of a bubble territory, a bit of froth. So hopefully that kind of gives a good foundation for everybody that might be new to this.
Yeah, and FDV is the key indicator there. FDV, not even just prices. When those FDVs are just nuts, that's when it's a little frothy. Go ahead.
Now a word from our sponsors.
Introducing Honeyland, a fun mobile casual strategy game built on Solana and available in iOS and Android stores across the world. Honeyland has achieved next level convenience by facilitating the purchasing of their NFTs and HXD token within the app, and you can use Google and Apple Pay. They have a massive upcoming airdrop and some partners like MasterCard, NASA, and StepN. So hop on over to honey.land to learn all about this and more. Introducing Creo Engine, a next-level Web3 gaming ecosystem that connects gamers and developers in a Web3 gaming hub. Hop on their Creo Play platform to check out current and upcoming titles like Evermore Nights, Slime Haven, Creonia Metaverse, and Arcade Fest. The team has earned the endorsement of the chairman of Indonesia's People Consultative Assembly and earned a 10 out of 10 from Hackin on their cross-chain bridge audit. Check all this out and more on creoengine.com. Introducing Gamety, the first gaming platform on Rune's protocol. They are changing the game in the Bitcoin ecosystem by ditching those Ponzi-like hyperinflated play-to-earn models that we all know and hate. And they are introducing a unique framework for sustainable game economics. This framework already has 30 plus casual games under development and boasts a unique rewarding system and time-based call to action ad system. Check out their website, Gamety.io, to learn more. Introducing Ridotto, gambling infrastructure that offers seamless on-chain experiences. Ridotto is built on 3 pillars: play, build, and bankroll. Play your favorite casino games with confidence, knowing that every outcome is fair and transparent. Build on their infrastructure to create your own gaming projects and be the house and earn through bankrolling. Learn all about this and their big upcoming betting on chain launch at Ridotto.io.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
Well, I wanted to jump in and just go through, in case there are people out there that don't understand cliff investing. There may be people watching that don't. So the cliff is the period where from the TGE, it's a token generation event. It's when the first token is launched. It used to be called an ICO, and people thought that was too much into the realm of the SEC. So they changed it to the much better name, TGE. So TGE happens and projects will offer you a cliff. The cliff is where you don't get any of those tokens. They're out in the open, and your project, whatever the deal is that you agree to, the cliff is when your vesting schedule starts. So there's no tokens given in the cliff. The vesting schedule could be sort of anything you want. It could vest every month. It could be vesting every quarter. It could be vesting every year. It could be vesting every week. It doesn't matter. But the vesting schedule is what percentage you get at TGE. Like you would get that. And then after that, there's a cliff that you don't get any tokens, or you may just have nothing at TGE and there's a cliff, you don't get tokens. And then your vesting schedule is sort of between you and the project, what you negotiate, and you could get tokens again every month, every week, and that's a certain percentage. So I just wanted to go through that in case anyone didn't understand that. And, a lot of that has to do with, those terms from the stock market. And also you'll see this in your work when you have stock options, or if you have your 401k, there's vesting schedules and all that. So it's a similar exact thing, but I just wanted to make that clear. And then it's amazing how far we've come from the last cycle when there were, just a couple of Launchpads, and now it's sort of, inundated everywhere. And I think that we've seen what happens with supply and demand. But I wanted to kind of pull it back to another part. I think, I would say my favorite part of Nexus and what I like the most is the dashboard. And I wanted you to kind of walk through, what the dashboard offers and, how it's such a great spot to just plug everything in. And like you talked about earlier, see everything. But I wanted to go through, that whole process and how easy it is to implement.
Yeah, for sure. And that's exactly right. Like we want to build something that's just easy to understand, easy to grasp. You see everything under one lens, and yeah, you can dive into each, right? You can go to the games, portfolios, you can check your watch list, you can check the NFT market, everything like that on different pages. But on the dashboard itself, it is that one-stop shop to just check in. If you got 5 minutes, you check in, you can check all your investments. So you open it up, you see your portfolio, all of your wallets that you link. And one thing we prided ourselves on this, because nobody likes linking their ledgers. Nobody likes, actually linking their wallets to these types of things because of compromise risk. And we also don't want to have that happen, right? Like we don't want to be the source of something, and we're highly secure. We've had the audits done and everything like that, but it's read-only functionality. You can just copy paste all your wallet addresses in here and it tracks as many wallets as you want. So across EVM, Solana, all that good stuff. So you can see your portfolio lens. You can see the 5 tokens that are impacting your portfolio the most, whether they're in the green or whether they're in the red. You can see it in that first snapshot view. On the right side, you can see all the different games that are partnered with Nexus. You could see, it's Shrapnel, Honeyland, My Pet Hooligan, Heroes of Mafia, all these different games. So you can jump into those if you choose. Right below your portfolio, you have your watch list. So without having to navigate different pages, you can see your entire portfolio value, where it's at for the day On top of that, you can check out any given token on this singular page without having to hop around on the app. And then on the right side, you'll have your favorite games. So any of the games that you've favorited that you want to jump into or you want to chat about, you want to play, leave a review, check out their token, check out their NFT, you can do so as well. We're also adding on here on the dashboard your favorited NFTs. So, whenever you add your Neo Tokyo to your watch list, whatever the case is, you'll also be able to jump right in, check the floor prices, all that good stuff. So yeah, the dashboard is just all in one spot where you don't have to hop around the app, but you get everything in one lens.
Yeah, I love the fact that you don't have to link your wallets. I mean, that's my number one big pet peeve on the dashboard. I'm like, unless there's some necessary functionality that needs to be done by this linkage, like why, I don't know why more projects don't do that, honestly. Just be able to drop your wallet in, and then, as you said, it's good for the customer, it's secure, and it's good for you guys too. It's one less thing to make sure is locked down and batted down, and obviously audits become more expensive the larger the potential security flaws. So I absolutely love that you guys went that route.
And then what you can do is then you can go find, people like Nick, and you can be like, all right, I want to watch Nick's wallet and I want to copy trade him because he's an absolute pro. And then, that way you can follow some of the greats and see what sort of moves they're making too.
Yeah, I think that's going to be cool whenever we bring that to market. So the whole point of the social profiles, it's optional, but you can go in there, and if you want to share a wallet, singular or your entire portfolio, you can, kind of like how DBank has it. There are people with profile pictures and wallets, and you can follow them. And a lot of people follow people's Zerion or DBank, but we're going to do the exact same thing with social profiles here. And you can actually, like I said, as a user, you can choose to keep your portfolios private, as you should be able to, or you can choose to share one wallet, or here's my sole meme coin wallet. Or you can just be like, here's all my plays. You can take a look inside my bags, and this is what we're doing. Ride to Valhalla with me. So there's going to be options for all of that.
And you mentioned meme coins. This is something that I'd love to dive into. I've got a little bit of a hypothesis forming that meme coins might actually fill the role from last cycle that NFTs did. Because if we're looking at the rotation so far, it's been Bitcoin, AI or crypto gaming being two of the biggest narratives, maybe real world assets. And then you're getting that last multiplier fling into meme coin mania, where a lot of people were taking those ETH profits or alt profits and then playing the NFT casino. So curious if that holds water with you, or perhaps maybe we're just too early in the cycle for, this version of the NFT mania.
That's a really good thesis, I have to be honest. And my concern, like, would I say like ETH NFTs are dead? I wouldn't like to say so, but at the same time, I also know myself when I got into crypto, when I started using the ETH blockchain itself, because I didn't even go decentralized. I was on centralized exchanges for a while there. But after that 2017 to 2021 period, NFTs blew up. I'm using Ethereum. As someone who wasn't playing with a lot of money yet, it was like, God, $120 for a fee? I'm like, oh gosh, that was 10% of my rent payment at the time. You know what I'm saying? I was like, okay, something's got to change here. Imagine this bull cycle when Ethereum, its new highs, and the chain's getting used for all these different meme coins, and you're paying $200, $300 per swap. Yeah. And I mean, now there's so many chain options out there where Solana has their meme coins. Base is super inexpensive. We have Uptos coming out on Aptos. There's so many different chains now with these different meme coins. That's a good hypothesis, honestly, because I don't know that NFTs are ever going to get back to where they were. I definitely think that there are projects that are outside of the bubble talk that have been here, have built correctly, et cetera. But that whole year of people degenning NFTs, getting rich off NFTs, and how much of a bubble it did turn out to be, I don't know that we ever see that again, but this might be the cycle for meme coins for that. Absolutely.
And maybe we can scope. Oh, go ahead, Nick.
No, I was just going to add on that really like what meme coins capture that I think that same NFT wave did is it's the perfect pairing between raw, undiluted speculation and the unknown. There was no way to value anything. That's why I'm so excited about AI, to be honest, because everyone always looks for what's the proper valuation. And the things that people don't understand get to the highest potential prices because there's no real way to stick your finger in the air and be like, is this too high? I don't know. It's a picture of a cat. How high could it go? And then, we've been seeing how that can play out.
It's the purest form of degeneracy. It's maximal degeneracy, which we love to see.
We're seeing Tucker Carlson, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Donald Trump. I'm like, bro, what is this, man?
I own Tucker, man. Tucker Carlson is where it's at.
Love it.
That's hilarious. So, so scoping out a little bit outside of meme coins, which I'm sure we could spend way too much time of our lives digging into. We've seen this very interesting, I want to say narrative wars between AI and gaming, right? It really looks like gaming had its big pump end of 23, early 24. Gaming's continued to pump. It's been amazing. Then people got AI mania, NVIDIA hit their $1 trillion, and then kept going. And so like people started going absolutely crazy in AI. We had a little bit of an AI bubble. Maybe that's cooled down a little bit, but it seems like people are just kind of shifting between the two, and they're absolutely losing focus, and people are totally going to get wrecked because of it. But what are you seeing in the market, as the gaming champion? What are you seeing, and how are you kind of seeing that interplay between AI and gaming?
Yeah. It's been tough, right? Because people in crypto, they don't care what it is, but if it bakes in enough speculation where they think they can make money and it has the social sentiment, they're going to ape into it. Doesn't matter what it is. And, I think YouTube's a great indicator for a lot of different things. You can tell when the top is in because your view chart looks like the Bitcoin chart. Number two, you can also tell when people are getting frustrated and the market isn't here to work for you. It's going to test you and all of your theses, right? AI just had a huge run. But if you looked across the market, AI coins are down 30% this week. There's a big pullback coming across, and everyone thought AI was this, god tier niche right now that couldn't be stopped, with NVIDIA and how big AI is. But the thing about narratives in crypto is it's cyclical. There's going to be something else that gets hot. But one thing, the YouTube is a big indicator. In the comments, in the live chats, I see it. I'm thinking about pivoting all my gaming bags into meme coins and AI. I got a comment yesterday of this, and I'm like, that's where we're at right now. People are about to ditch the gaming niche because it's just been slow. But really, 2 months ago, Mavia launched and we had another leg up in gaming coins. Like we saw a big leg up at that point. And sure, we've cooled off since then. There's been those 30% pullbacks on a lot of different projects, but that's the time to either be stacking whenever people are capitulating. That's a great indicator, in my opinion. People are getting the greed and the FOMO from AI and memes. They're literally saying, Hustle, I'm going to sell my gaming tokens that I've had conviction in for years to degen into Tucker Carlson, for example, right? It's like, that's where we're at. And I think that's a great time to potentially DCA into gaming. Gaming's not going anywhere. We got multiple launches still coming up this year. I mean, I think off the grid could be the biggest catalyst we ever see in crypto gaming because of how quality it is and how mainstream that could go. But even in the short term with stuff, Wilder World's coming out with their game to the public. They're going to be doing tons of tournaments. We've seen the tournament thing work with Big Time. We've seen it work with Echelon Prime in the past. Like all it takes is a single game to set off the market. And Nyan Heroes looks fantastic. It's been getting a lot of hype on the timeline. Their token's about to launch. So I think that it's just a matter of time till gaming comes back into the fold. I'm not getting rid of my gaming bags. I can tell you that. And that's just my thesis. I see people freaking out. I think it's a good thing. I'm happy about it.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect pivot time where we hit the all-time high. Everyone was expecting to go to 100,000, and it's like, oh wait, we're just going to sit here for a while. and then all of the altcoins are dropping and the sentiment is just slow and sluggish, and we have a new meme coin probably every millisecond that comes out, and the inflation's still high. So, to me, I agree with you. Once we have, because Tucker Carlson and all these Lurie Pink, right? All these really funny meme coins are awesome, but at the end of the day, they don't do anything. And, these games are going to come out and we're going to have users, we're going to have people trading the tokens, we're going to have, some type of in-game NFT. I think that'll really take over. That hasn't happened yet. And I think that may reinvigorate not the entire ETH NFT market, but I think it'll invigorate the fact that NFTs have use in their use case. And I'm really excited to see that. And I don't know if you wanted to talk about sort of your thoughts on, in-game NFTs. And, a lot of people talk about, and Honeyland in our last podcast was a great example of how you own your assets, or at that point you custody your assets, I believe is the way you put it. And that's sort of a little bit different than Web 2, but that's not enough. Like, you need to make the next step about creating the entire ecosystem, bringing people back. And I think that was great. And what games do you see and what teams do you see that are actually taking that next step? Not just, oh yeah, we're Web 3. It's sort of like, oh, we have AI and we're Web 3. What's the ones that are really working hard and building something that could last? And I think that's going to be the important part of it. Obviously the game's got to be great as well.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to pose this question across before I dive deeper, but one interesting one. I haven't heard of anything from this team in months, but everyone thought it was going to be one of the biggest games of the cycle. Midnight Society. Has anyone heard anything recently on that one? Dr. Disrespect's game. Interesting to see.
Nothing.
They did this recent fundraise, and this is just an example too. You could think they have the best team, and I'm not counting them out, but this is just the best example I can think of because I haven't seen much. It's been pretty radio silent as far as updates go. They were building in public and every launch was getting better. But then they did this racing launch. I don't know if you guys remember. They sold these NFT cars to people. But then I haven't heard anything since. So it's really hard to bank on who's really going to come through in the space because they had a lot of money and they still will probably come out on the other side with a product. Don't get me wrong. But man, it is hard to see through the lines on a lot of these things. But when I'm looking across the space right now, some active products, I think Shrapnel has a good chance to be one of the good shooters out in the space. Look, right now it's a little unpolished. The environments are kind of more basic, and they know that. That's the thing. They're just trying to get that feedback and touch up the game. I think Shrapnel's done a great job this cycle of just continuing development, head down, ignore the noise. Parallel, and more importantly, Parallel Colony. I know you mentioned the gaming AI thing, but their AI game, I think, can be massive, and they're doing it right. Parallel Colony looks pretty sick, I have to say. So that's one I'm really looking forward to. They've navigated this bear market with absolute finesse as far as keeping the sentiment up. And whenever they went to market with the trading card game, all that good stuff. When I'm looking, I think Wilder World has done a great job of rolling out the updates at the right time, build in the bear, get this thing out there when the sentiment's great, and the feedback's been absolutely amazing. Obviously, I like Nyan Heroes, mentioned it earlier. It's about to launch their token and their game. They just signed on Evil Geniuses, the Valorant World Champs from last year. So could be some esports integrations there. And then obviously off the grid for me. I've talked to people who have played it. I've tried to get in there, but they're very stingy. I would love to play it myself, but I know just by looking at it, it's one of the best games in the space. So as far as high quality stuff, that's where I'd be looking. Now there's the mobile products I like, Mavia, Honeyland. I like Crown, photo finish game, Kentucky Derby partners. But I feel like those for me are more investment mechanisms, whereas these are more games that could go mainstream. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, some absolutely killer games right there. And just on the Midnight Society front, they just made this week, I think, their first announcement in a long time, which included that they were just accepted as a PlayStation partner. And they're doing full push in order to get console integration, ramping up their team there. But they have like such a Web 2 gaming like almost culture, it feels like, where they build behind closed doors, and then they're like, look at what we built. And then there's sort of the community Web3-ish thing that flares up around it, and then it's quiet and they're building. So it'll be interesting to see, if they come out swinging. I'm okay with quiet building as long as whatever ends up getting built is sick.
Yeah, no, I agree for sure.
So I just kind of want to scope out and just also give you an opportunity to just kind of chat freely about like what are you most excited about? What's really on your radar right now about kind of the things that that you're really paying attention to? Is it more of just like, all right, sit on your hands, we're chilling, figure out something fun to do in the meantime while everything, develops, or is there something where you're like, okay, no, these are some this is some signal here. Let's cut through the noise. Just kind of want to hand back the mic to you. I know we're close to time here, so anything else that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, for sure. I think right now I'm sitting on my hands, maybe placing some DCAs if something goes under a certain price, that type of thing. But for me, I know Becker talks about it a lot. Leo does too. Your patience will be tested all market long. You will never feel like you have enough, but also you will never feel like the market acts fast enough for your expectations. So like, I sit on my hands. I know where this market is heading. We say we know, but the way the cycles tell us historically says that we're going much higher from here before this run is over, quote unquote. So for me, it's more so I'm building in the meantime, like, with Nexus, with TTOO, that we're just trying to push us forward as much product and as much updates. So when the market does get back to where we all inevitably think it will, we're going to have these things in place. And the new incumbents that want to build something similar are going to be months, if not a year behind in their development timelines. So really pushing forward that. And I had an interesting convo with Elio recently, and he's hyper focused on creator brands, and he thinks that's going to be something huge. The way that FaZe Banks and Thread Guy are doing this probably nothing thing, and he was in the recent one, which was cool to see. But he was talking about how he thinks that like personal brands, so like Nexus for me, him Superverse, for Banks it's probably nothing, for Becker it's Neo Tokyo basically for Becker. So like everyone, the creators that have brands in the space, he sees it being like a KSI Logan Paul Prime. He sees it being like Eman Gadji bringing out his recent drink that's been doing really well. So he's really focused on that. So that gives me a lot of motivation that, we're on the right track. I think I just want to build out this software product and make it one of the best tools in the space and for people to find value in. And we're laser focused in that. I'm headed out to Dubai to do some marketing next week with some of our team members at Token 2049. Probably we'll be doing some campaigns at other conferences as well, and just really just trying to spread the word. This is the time to market, so people are aware when the market does hit the peaks that we believe it will. This will be the go-to tool. So that's really my focus at this point. My investments can take a back seat. I'd rather see my product succeed, to be honest.
And maybe one last question. I would say that alongside of Alex and Elliot, like you're up there with the very best of content creators in the crypto gaming space. What's that like? What is it like to be you in this role?
I never like to think of it that way, right? I just like to do my thing and just operate day to day. Obviously, when it comes to like the YouTube game on like the gaming side, definitely like the numbers would say that that's the case. But like I just, it's an honor for me to be in the same conversations as those two guys that have such a high reputation. Alex from Web2 business to doing what he does now, and Elio, just the reputation he's built in the space. But no, for me, I just love the fact that I'm able to talk to teams and get the insights and work with people behind the scenes and kind of see what's going on in the gaming space. Because like, if I was just a traditional investor, content creator hopping around different narratives, would I be a little bearish gaming today? Sure, I would. But because I have these convos and I see a lot of these teams, what they're doing, it's just a blessing in disguise to be able to just kind of have that conviction on the front end, but then be able to connect with these teams because they deem it desirable to connect with me for whatever reason. I'm just some guy who talks about crypto in my in my dungeon here with Jimmy Butler and Scrooge Montana in the background. I don't know anything other than the other guy. I just it's just all one. Like, creators can ruin their reputation very quickly. You shill something that rugs, you degen into meme coins too much, you're live streaming, you get rugged, your community follows you. All it takes is one bad move to screw that up. So I just try to navigate with ethics in the space, which I think, the creators that do have a long staying power here. And no, I just live life, man. I don't think of it like that, to be honest.
Well, you're the man. I'm deeply appreciative for everything that you've done, both for the space. You've made a lot of people a lot of money, and the alpha that you provided, and then for me personally, I can just vouch for you as an incredible human being. Just can't say enough good things about you. But thank you very much, Hustle, for coming on the show today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Really appreciate you sharing some of your valuable time.
Let me say one thing too for the Interlinked viewers. Obviously, I work with Jared very closely as well with the Nexus pad. Nick, we definitely need to collaborate more. But from working with this man every single day, to Interlinked viewers out there, to the Neo Tokyo community, this guy's an absolute savage. His work ethic is absolutely crazy. We're at dinner. We talk about a connection we want to make. He fires off a message right then, boom, boom. 11 o'clock at night, doesn't matter. He is on the ball, and he's been one of the biggest blessings I've ever brought into any team that I've had. So you guys are in good hands with everything that that Ben touches within Neo Tokyo, I have to say, and a great group of guys here in general. So I just had to throw that in there.
But deeply appreciated.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful to have you on, especially as the first repeat guest. Another absolute banger of an episode. Good to be among citizens. Ben, over to you to close us out, my friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, hope you've enjoyed this episode. It's been very special. We're making history today. So, Hustle, thank you so much for coming on the pod. First back-to-back podcast champion for us. So hope to have you back again. Jared, Nick, is always a pleasure. And to everybody watching and listening, thank you. You guys and gals and robots and chickens and whatever other random things you are out there. We wouldn't have as much fun if it was just us talking to the camera. Y'all are the lifeblood of this. So thank you very much. And we'll see you on the next episode of Interlinked. Take care.